I've always thought of New Zealand as a totally safe place to get in the water, but just recently, two separate reports have caught my eye and made me think again. One incident concerns a young man, Clint Haynes, who was out on a remote lake in New Zealand's South Island. According to this newspaper report, Haynes had gone out to recover a friend's boat propeller from the bottom of the lake. He knew the lake well, or at least he thought he did. At about 100 feet down, something massive suddenly swam towards him. And within seconds, there were more of them. He says up to about 80 pounds in size. In the pitch black, one of these creatures sank its jaws into one of Clint's fins and started to drag him down. Panicking, he dropped his flashlight and swam for his life. Clint's wife, Bev, remembers how this aggressive pack actually pursued him to the surface, where Clint was screaming to get out. He'd come up so fast from deep water that he collapsed with the bends. Haynes survived the attack, but was plagued by nightmares. For Ian Sutherland, another diver working in northern New Zealand, a similar encounter proved to be more violent. The creature in this case was already a local legend. Its head was reportedly a foot across. Without warning, it rammed Ian in the chest with enough force to crack one of his ribs. By all accounts, the animals that grabbed and thumped these two divers were supersized eels. Now, I've heard about monstrous sea-dwelling eels. Some, like this European conger, can grow to 10 feet long. And the giant moray is a seriously large animal, certainly big enough to attack humans. One well-known account here of a diver getting his thumb ripped off and eaten. But the idea that a freshwater eel could ever be huge or dangerous comes as a real surprise. Some 240 years ago, British explorer James Cook painstakingly mapped the coastline of New Zealand. As he did so, he gathered information from the Maori inhabitants about native wildlife. And in one of his many journals, he alludes very specifically to a man-eating monster. Following a conversation with a local chief, Cook writes, and I quote, "We had another piece of information, importing that there are here snakes and lizards of an enormous size, 8 feet long and equal to a man's body in circumference. They sometimes seize and devour men." According to Cook, the chief actually drew a picture of one of these creatures to show what he meant. But the obvious conclusion that this beast must be a python or possibly some kind of huge lizard simply can't be right. What makes this account so intriguing and also so problematic is that there are no snakes or any large reptiles in New Zealand, and there never have been. The Aborigines have long hunted sawfish for food and are still allowed to catch them. As an outsider, though, I'm not sure how they'll take to me fishing for one in their waters. Around here, it's mostly the women who do the fishing, so it's their knowledge I want to tap into. Mary Aitken is an elder from the Bunuba tribe. She grew up on this river and begins by recounting the story of a large sawfish that she caught here many years ago.
We hauled it in onto the bank, and one of my family members banged it on the head and pulled it up onto the sandbar. And then we called out to some locals that were going downstream on the boat. We asked them to put the sawfish on the boat, otherwise we'd have been struggling with it.
How many were you?
There was about 4 or 5 of us.
And you couldn't take it between?
We didn't have no blokes, it was just all ladies.
It seems the fish was almost too big for the back of Mary's pickup.
Well, when we put it into the Toyota, we couldn't put it sort of cross because it was too big. So he had to slide it in, and a little bit of tail sticking out, but we managed to close the back.
So you've just got it on the back?
Yeah, just got it on, yeah. So it fed a lot of people, yeah.
So what about children when they go fishing here? They're catching small fish and then they get one of these sawfish on the line. I mean, do they ever get hurt by them?
We stand well away from it, you know. We tell the kids the same thing. We tell them it's too dangerous to hang around while it's still alive and kicking.
Then Mary hands me the largest saw I've ever seen. The savage potential of this ready-made weapon certainly hasn't been lost on humans. There are records of sawfish rostrums being used as weapons right across the Western Pacific, from the Philippines down through New Guinea as far as New Zealand. They'd use it to slice open the abdomens of their enemies and also to open up the veins on the inside of the elbows, causing fatal bleeding. And even just a couple of years ago here in Australia, a couple of burglars attacked a man in a caravan using a sawfish rostrum, and they put him in hospital. But whether the sawfish itself sets out to attack people is less clear. So far, the evidence is about as shadowy as the beast itself. The Trio tribe's village at Amatopo has no more than 20 huts. It is their only settlement on the Corentin River. They live with the wolfish, so they know it better than anyone. I'm hoping they will share some of its secrets with me. How dangerous exactly is the Anyumara? Ateneo was hunting, and he came to a creek near here called Mosquito Creek. And there was a troop of monkeys crossing the creek. They were going to the furthest branch on one side, jumping across onto the furthest branch the other side, and the whole group of monkeys had jumped apart from the last one. One missed the branch, landed in the water. As soon as it hit the water, it was attacked by a wolfish and killed. Suddenly, the stories come thick and fast. So somebody was actually bitten on the arm. That speaks of a real sort of aggression. Ateneo's uncle was hunting one day with his dog. Hunting dogs, when they're hunting, they're barking, barking, barking. Ateneo's uncle found his dog dead in the creek with its stomach ripped open. And there's now another incident of somebody getting bitten, in this case on the thumb. So there's another 2 animals to add to the list. Snakes swimming on the surface and just being taken from below. There's a type of bird called an anamu. This is a bird that comes to the water to drink, and likewise that's just grabbed by one of these fish just lurking there in ambush. Is Ateneo sort of, you know, wary about getting in the water sometimes?
No, so he says he's not jumping in.
Yeah.
Because where people don't fish, the Ayamara just very raw aggression.
People outside South America, they know all about piranhas. Now, locally, a wolffish, this is a fish with a very big reputation. It's known to be very aggressive, and there are certain circumstances where they will literally rip anything apart that goes near them. Reptiles, birds, primates, even people. After listening to the Trio tribe, it's clear that having the weaponry is one thing, having the attitude is quite another. The wolffish is well equipped with both. Talking to the people at the fish market, there were 2 river monsters which kept coming to the surface. One is this hideous scaly gremlin called the kappa. Now this is reported to drag unwary children down into the depths where it devours them. The other is a creature of altogether different magnitude. It's said to be responsible for more human deaths than all the other river monsters I've encountered in other parts of the world put together. Its name is the Namazu, and apparently it's not just a legend. The people say that it lives to this day in an ancient lake in the middle of Honshu Island. At 260 square miles, Lake Biwa is Japan's largest freshwater lake and dates back some 4 million years, making it one of the oldest lakes in the world. To get there, it's 2 hours by bullet train. Japan is like nowhere I've been to before. Ancient tradition and steel modernity sit so comfortably side by side. But will there still be living evidence of the legends I seek in this day and age? Or have the river monsters been swallowed up by this progress? To find out, before I head on to Lake Biwa, Mai has arranged for me to meet with an anthropologist from the Shiga University, who's going to tell me more about the legends of these monsters and where to find them. We meet outside an ancient shrine, a place 100 years away from the city I left only 2 hours ago. His name is Professor Kurada, and he grew up surrounded by these legends.
In the sea.
I first ask him about the kappa.
Professor Kuroda says that when he was a child, he was told not to go swimming because the kappa would actually come and takes your spirit. I mean, did you believe that as a child?
私が小さい子供の時はカッパがいると本当に信じてました。
Yes, he believed it, and he tells me that when he was a child, 2 of his classmates drowned in a nearby river. He was told then that their deaths had been the work of the sinister kappa.
So what does it actually look like, this creature?
皿が乗っている。でここに水があると時は元気なんです。
It's about the size of a child. Some of the details are a bit hazy, but what people are very sure about is that it's got some kind of plate on its head. Some people say that it has a shell on its back. But the thing that everybody's clear about is that it's got hands, but they're not hands like we have hands. They are hands with webbed fingers, which I suppose makes sense because it lives in the water. Creatures that live in the water, very often, you can't see them clearly. You just see a bit, and I suppose over the years, people see one bit, another bit. They put them all together, and what we've got in the case of the kappa is this composite water monster.
This information, although appalling, takes me no nearer to finding the truth about the identity of the terrifying kappa. I change tack and ask instead about the Namazu.
So can you tell me what is the old belief about the Namazu?
ナマズはだから地震の時に暴れるので。
There is a huge one of these creatures living under the ground.
Legend goes that there is a catfish that lives under the earth. When it wriggles its massive body, it causes the huge earthquakes that frequently torment Japan. To protect the people, Kashima, a water god, placed a huge stone on the Namazu to prevent it from moving. However, every so often the god loses concentration and relaxes his pressure on the stone, and the catfish wriggles, attempting to free itself, causing more earthquakes. Japan has over 1,000 earthquakes a year. It is a constant threat, putting millions of lives at risk. Are these regular earth tremors really the work of a giant catfish? It's a startling story, with one massive stumbling block. There is not a catfish alive that could have such an effect as this. So my challenge is to find a possible connection in the real world between catfish and earthquakes. Maybe the answer lies out on the lake. With only a few hours of daylight left, I plan to scout the area and try to get my head around the immensity of my challenge. Straight away, it's clear that the modern world is fast closing in on this ancient lake. I recently heard a story about a small ferry that overturned on a river in southern Africa. The boat was old, and overloaded with cargo and passengers. When it started taking in water, the children panicked and the boat flipped. Apparently there were no survivors, and rumours circulated that the victims didn't just drown, they were attacked. When the bodies were recovered, they were found to be partially eaten. People at the time said that the victims had been eaten by fish. Official accounts, however, said it couldn't have been fish. Larger predators must have been responsible. Crocodiles and other killers live here in abundance, but the locals are convinced that the size and number of bite marks couldn't have been the work of these usual suspects. So could those original accounts have been correct? Could there be a pack-hunting fish similar to a piranha living in southern Africa? It sounds hard to believe, but I've heard equally fantastical stories in the past that have turned out to be true. Like a man swallowed whole by a giant fish. A bus crash where passengers were devoured by piranhas. And fishermen having their genitals mutilated by an underwater hunter. So even though I've caught my share of monsters in Africa, I've never come across a piranha-style killer. But I have learnt that fishermen's tales shouldn't be ignored. So I'm off to investigate a river system that's said to be the home of this killer, to see if I can figure out what it is, and then catch it. But I've never been in this region before, so I'm not sure what to expect. I ask if there's anything that fits the description of a toothy pack hunter, and they tell me to find an English-speaking fisherman named Clifford who was attacked by a fish.
The fish wriggled. I tried to grab the fish, but I hit it in the teeth with my hand, and it closed up.
And is this the mark here?
Yes.
Wow.
I had 14 stitches. My thumb is no longer functioning.
So what is the name of this fish that bit you?
Ngwesh.
Ngwesh. And this is the thing with fish names, and the reason we have scientific names is that everybody knows what everybody's talking about. This is not a name I've heard before. It's clearly a predator, it's toothy. I'm actually quite used to seeing piranha bites on fishermen in the Amazon, and you're normally talking there something small, something maybe at the most an inch across, 2.5, 3 inches across, and it's got a sort of, almost a sort of a triangular profile, but to inflict a wound like that, it's got to have very, very sharp teeth. And this was a couple of years ago, and it's just left a permanent scar.
I saw a carcass rocking and rolling, you might say, of a buffalo on the side of the bank, half immersed in water. And there were barbara trying to pull off meat, and there were tigerfish. You could see the tigers going in and hitting the carcass. And I wouldn't like to be in the water when that happens, because it's piranha style.
This sounds like what happened to the ferry victims. The case is building. What about if you're bathing in the side of the river, washing pots and pans, this kind of thing? Are you at risk from them?
Well, the only time that I've ever experienced anything of that, a youngster had a crucifix around his neck. And while he was swimming, the tigerfish spotted this moving silver object, thought it was a fish, and it attacked. He let out a scream, and he was just bleeding from the chest. He was taken to hospital.
Recently, I've been getting reports of monster catfish sightings at the Bagnall Dam in south-central Missouri, which is at one end of the Lake of the Ozarks. It's a treacherous place. The lake behind the dam is statistically the third most dangerous stretch of water in the United States. It's a deep, liquid black hole where bodies regularly go missing. Could the large number of missing human bodies be linked to the reports of supersized catfish? I begin my investigation by meeting up with local historian Michael Gillespie to find out what he knows about the missing people.
No one really knows how many bodies have been lost in the lake and never recovered. But the best known incident involving that sort of thing was back in 1954. It was a boating accident involving an excursion boat called the Grand Glaze. The Grand Glaze left Bagnell Dam just in front of a large thunderstorm that was moving in. It was Memorial Day weekend. The boat went out across the lake and about 2 or 3 miles up the lake when it hit the leading edge of that storm.
Just as the boat turned into a sheltered cove, a strong gust of wind capsized it.
"15 people went into the water, and of those 15, 8 were drowned. 3 of those 8 bodies were never recovered. One of the victims' fathers, actually out of his own expense, contracted to have divers search for his drowned daughter. They never did find her.
It's possible the bodies sank to the lake bed and were consumed by catfish. It's a grisly scenario I've encountered before in the Kali River, India, where catfish have grown gigantic from eating semi-cremated bodies put there during river burials. Maybe something similar is happening here.
I know there are large catfish in here, but there's a possibility there are some giant catfish in here. By giant, I mean fish as large as myself, maybe more so.
It really does seem as if there are seriously large fish in the water behind that dam. And what's interesting to me is that this is not some tropical jungle. We're talking about a body of water here that is right in the heart of the developed world.
But before I cast my line into the murky depths, I want to know what sort of monsters could be investigating my bait. So I meet somebody who spends his working life in these treacherous waters. Salvage diver Tim McNitt has clocked up thousands of hours diving here. If there are monsters in this lake, he should know about it.
So as well as boats and things that people have dropped, I mean, are you sometimes retrieving bodies out of the water here?
I've recovered 8 bodies in my lifetime. Sometimes they're in branches or trees underwater. Sometimes they're in vehicles underwater.
Have any of the bodies retrieved ever had anything partially feeding on them?
I have seen bodies of that nature.
Catfish are known to be scavengers. They will eat anything that fits in their mouth. And if they get big enough, then humans are on the menu. I want to know if the catfish in this lake reach that size.
What's the biggest catfish you've seen?
Oh, probably at least a 6-footer, 6 to 7-footer, close to 280, 300 pounds. Head on them, about that big, bigger than me, heavier than me.
At last, a first-hand account from somebody who has seen a monster catfish in this lake.
Heading down to the lake to cool off, he secures the cow to his wrist with a length of rope. Suddenly, something grabs his leg and drags him into the water. Still attached to the cow, he shouts the command, "Go, go," and a tug of war begins. Hearing his screams, villagers run to his aid and haul him to safety as the beast retreats. But is there really a creature living in those waters capable of such an attack?
I'm making my way to Ukraine in Eastern Europe, to a village called Somin at the heart of the lake monster legends. The whole area is permeated by interconnected lakes and waterways, the perfect labyrinth to hide a monster. Beneath the relics of the Soviet Empire lie its rural roots, remote places steeped in pagan folklore and mysticism. Their misty waters are said to be home to vengeful spirits, with ancient ceremonies still performed to appease them. My investigation starts in Somin, which appears every bit a sleepy rural village. I waste no time and get chatting with the locals, who immediately point me in the direction of a woman named Zina.
Добрий день.
Добрий день. Зіна.
Jeremy,
Дуже приємно.
I understand your father had a story about something large living in the lake here. What was that story?
Тато, як був маленький підліток, йому було 14 років, він зі своїм дідушкою.
The father's story apparently was told to him by his grandfather, and this was about a villager who was down at the lake washing.
А вночі їх пасли. І дідушка розказав тату,
And he saw an animal so large that he actually died of fright 2 days later. In the meantime, he told people that it was a turtle. Now, as far as I know, there are no turtles or no large turtles in these waters, but I suspect he just had no frame of reference for what it could have been.
Stories of large creatures are not uncommon here. So while Zina's descriptions seem vague, she suggests that I track down another local with a story of his own, a man named Anatoly.
Anatoly, people say that you know something about a large creature in the lake.
Напівпроковтнутого сомом на берег і разом з сомом.
Something called a som. They've got a name for this thing. What exactly is a som? What does a som look like?
Набагато зменшена форма кита.
He says it's somewhat similar in shape to a whale.
Щіточки дуже мілкі, але дуже гострі вони.
Lots of small, sharp teeth. He says almost like the bristles on a brush.
Майже нема. Це слізисто такою пленочкою покрите все тіло.
The whole body just has this slimy feel to it.
Люди сприймали і великі, і малі соми. Нормально сприймали, вже привикли до сом. То була піща нормальна.
Fish of 7 to 10 foot used to be a regular occurrence. They would be so big that they'd have to take them away on a horse and cart. And apparently swans and geese from time to time would just disappear from sight. Something would come up and just engulf them whole. Very, very fast-striking, ferocious fish. Do you still have big ones in the lake?
Ну, крупні такі не знаю, але ще от бувають такі випадки, що ловлять по 2 метри довжиною такі суми. Ну, от.
He says he thinks there are still quite big ones there. Fish maybe 7, 8, 9 foot long.
So it seems there's a large, aggressive fish at the heart of these stories. And while I'm not sure of its identity, I do at least have a name. The Somme. It's hard to imagine this tranquil village harbouring a bloodthirsty monster. But as I search my way through the dawn mist, Somme Lake takes on a whole new character.
With the sun now rising through the mist, it feels like a place where water spirits and 10-foot-long fish could be perfectly possible.
Just as I'm running out of ideas, I'm directed to a man who worked in a local hospital for many years. He may have some information. I track down Don Alvaro in a church in the centre of town.
Buenos días. ¿Usted es Don Alvaro?
He vividly remembers the tragic incident.
Seguro la esposa pasó apercibida, pero cuando se dio cuenta que la señora no estaba.
This actually corroborates the story that I heard before I came here.
Entonces él trajo la señora al Amazonas.
A couple got married in the interior and came here to the river for their honeymoon. It was the time of year when the water is low, you've got big beaches, and so that's where people go to spend time in the water.
In the blink of an eye, something snatched and dragged her through the water.
3 días.
Then, Don Alvaro drops a small but vital detail into his account.
3 days later, they found the body. At first appearances, there were no injuries at all. It was just a dead body. Cause of death, probably drowning. However, when they examined the body, they found one
wound, one injury, and this was a hole in the lower leg. Otra cosa, no.
No,
Solo
eso.
Something had done that, presumably before she died, and whatever that was could have been the cause of death.
I'm told it wasn't a bullet hole, it was a puncture. This could be a vital clue to the identity of the attacker.
A caiman would leave a very, very obvious mark to somebody's leg. It would make a lot of damage. An anaconda would actually leave multiple puncture holes. Bull sharks used to come this far up the Amazon. Maybe they still do, but again, that leaves a very, very clear signature. Catfish leave a mark almost as if it's made by very coarse sandpaper. So having dismissed all these, the obvious suspects, there's only one creature left that I know of that could have been capable of inflicting such an injury.
A creature I discounted from my investigation. A stingray. Its barbed spine leaves a single gaping wound in its victims. Normally the spine rips back out, but could it in certain circumstances hold fast? A nightmare scenario unfolds. Could a stingray have harpooned the bride's leg and then dragged her down?
This is something that I've never heard of happening before, and to be honest, I think it's very, very unlikely, and it's going to take a lot of proving.
Nevertheless, I now have a prime suspect.
The centuries-old temple at Angkor show fish so big they can swallow deer whole and so plentiful that boats can't avoid.